This podcast is part of the Pull Up a Chair podcast network. Let's build community through connection, conversation, and collaboration. This podcast is sponsored by Ep11 Consulting, editing with a purpose. Check them out at ep11consulting.com for a free consultation. This podcast is part of the Pull Up a Chair podcast network. Let's build community through connection, conversation, and collaboration.
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty. Man, we just putting on a show.
Hi, I'm Jake,
And I'm V,
and you're listening to the It's Working podcast.
where we take deep dives into mental health, breaking stigmas, and starting conversations.
Oh, you know, I try to find a purpose in my life to drive me, to guide me. Oh, doctor, I feel dead inside.
We are not healthcare professionals, and our opinions should not be taken as facts or as medical advice. To see any sources, resources, or study we speak about in this podcast, please check out our website, linked in the description of this podcast. If you or a loved one is struggling, there is hope and there is help. Some helpful resources can be found on our website, linked in the description of this podcast. It's Working Podcast is a production from the Pull Up a Chair Foundation. All opinions in this podcast belong to our hosts and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Pull Up a Chair Foundation. Hey guys, welcome back. Today's episode is super well timed because today we're talking about the importance of taking a mental health day and what that actually means and what that actually looks like, because Pinterest and Instagram will lie to you about what a mental health day is.
That's fair.
And on poor Jake's mental health day, I dragged him over here to record an episode with me.
That's not, I enjoy this, so this is part of, I think, the rest.
The rest.
So
it works out to
Yeah.
some degree, at least. Okay, that's good to know. Then I don't have to feel guilty at all. I'm just going to take it as it is.
yeah.
All right, well, right off the bat, let's define our terminology, which is always important to do. A mental health day is when you're taking a day off of responsibilities such as work or housework. If you have children, don't take a mental day off of caring for them because they might die. or pets. If you have pets, make sure you do the pet care.
Or plants.
Or plants.
Yeah.
Plants are a little, depending on the type of plant, a little easier to work around a mental health day.
Yeah.
Especially since for a lot of people, including my obsessive self,
Mm-hmm.
find that caring for plants is very therapeutic, so it doesn't feel like a chore.
Do you talk to your plants?
I do, and they all have names.
They all have names?
All 42 of them. I have a lot of babies. They're my babies. They're my plant babies.
You didn't have to give a number, but...
I do. I know them all. I know them all personally, which is why on days where I physically can't take care of my plants, I ask my husband to take care of my babies for me.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't ask me who my babies are or what babies I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
He knows I'm discussing my plants.
Well, that's good.
They are the babies. I think when we met, it was only 30 still. When you and I met, Jake.
You got 4...
I did
14, 12 more
12.
plants?
I've only bought 3 since then, and then others propagated.
Ah.
Yes, and pretty soon I'm going to start my seedlings, and so it's going to... I'm a crazy plant lady.
This is amazing.
I'm a crazy
You've
plant
heard of crazy cat lady, now get ready for crazy plant lady.
Well, my dream is one day to have a greenhouse.
Yeah.
And then I won't need mental health days. I'll have a greenhouse.
I would say crazy plant lady is almost definitely better than crazy cat lady because you don't have to deal with the smell.
You might still have to deal with it, because we got a crazy cat lady 3 doors down, and her cats come to poop over here near my plants.
No.
It's very annoying.
Well, that can't be helped then.
No.
Yeah.
Anyways, going back to the topic.
Right.
Mental health days are a way for you to remind yourself that you are human beyond the work that you do. And sometimes in today's hustle culture, that can be a little difficult to do.
Yeah.
Like, time is money. But then you forget that, like, if you waste all your time making money, where's the life? Where does that factor into all of it? So let's start with you. How are you taking your mental health day?
Well, I know typically for mental health days, I like to just do the bare minimum.
Okay.
Lots of sleep, I think. My biggest issue is I like to burn the midnight oil a lot, and so if I have, like, project deadlines or, you know, if I've had a particularly busy week at work and I've not had an opportunity to do any, like, extracurricular projects for, like, Kiraheim, for instance, or working on armor or, like, weapon orders, I'll stay up into the wee hours of the morning sometimes, and I will grind out some more armor, I'll build some more weapons, I'll do it. And, which is weird because that stuff is fun for me, but it's still, like, when it's on a deadline, it does feel like work.
I mean, anything on a deadline could feel like work.
Right. But I say that to say because, like, on this particular mental health day that I had recently, that was one of the things that I did was I built armor.
Yeah, so you, like, involved yourself in a hobby, and I think that's, like, an important thing to note on. Often online, when you see people, like, discussing mental health days, they're like, I'm just gonna take a bath and binge eat and do nothing but watch TV. And while that can absolutely be valid, if that's the only thing you're doing for your mental health, you're doing it wrong. Mental health days are supposed to reignite the flame in your heart for life. It's supposed to reset you. And it needs to be sustainable. And I feel like that's where a lot of people fall short. They're like, I'm going to wait until I am on the brink of breaking down to where all I can do is watch TV on a mental health day. There's some research done by the Center for Disease Control that looked at how stress actually impacts the body. And of course, we all know, like, it drops your immune system. If you have any chronic illness, you'll have more constant flare-ups. It can develop into stress and anxiety and, depending on your brain chemistry, even depression. So mental health days are supposed to be like your daily remedy of that. A research group in France did a little survey, and, you know, when it comes to self-reported stuff, always take it with a grain of salt. I got my shaker over here. So they found that mental health days, according to the study, were more fulfilling when there's a small goal. Like, today I am taking care of my plants, or I'm going to work on this little hobby. Something fun, but something where at the end of doing whatever it is, you still feel satisfied.
Oh, so it's a readily attainable goal.
Readily attainable goal. Like, today I'm doing the dishes. Or
there you go.
I saw, like, dishes and cooking popping up a lot. Just, like, small, little quality of life things. And I think that, like, all boils down to, there's a thing in psychology, I forget the term, where our human brains really love to finish tasks. It gives us a good little hit of dopamine. It's like, look, I sewed together this cape so I don't freeze to death in winter. How exciting, how awesome. And we love that. But not many jobs today in modern society have that I finished this item or I finished this task.
Yeah.
Usually it's 1,000,002 little tasks where there's not, like, a big payoff at the end. So we're not getting that type of dopamine that often. Usually our dopamine's from scrolling and stuff that's just generally not that good for us.
Yeah.
And so finding time to carve out for your more caveman side of your brain, like, look at me completing this thing, is really good for you. And of course, mental health days wouldn't be as, like, important if we took care of our mental health more steadily and more, like,
right,
sustainably, I think is the best term. Because I know I am, like, the most guilty of running myself into the ground and then keeping going and then smiling. And then the cycle continues.
Oh, that's not good.
I know it's not. It's really not. And so, do as I say, not as I do, and be better. So I found a whole bunch of different advice on the internet, not coming from me because apparently I'm not good at giving advice because I can't take my own.
Oh my god.
That looks at ways of compartmentalizing your work, so that way you can have a mini mental health day when you get home at the end of the day, or when you're changing from one mode to the other mode. And that's coming, of course, from like a place of great privilege, because not everybody has one job where they get home at a reasonable hour where they can still like live their life. So take that with the understanding that not everybody's as privileged. But if you do have that privilege, make sure to really try to separate yourself, your home you from your work you, and not to bring all the stress of your daily life home, because then you will start losing interest in the stuff you enjoy. I know when I'm the most stressed, I spend a lot less time singing to my plants. I know you're looking at me like I'm a little bit crazy, but it helps them grow.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. You have any thoughts, Mr. Grumpy Face? It's your mental health day. You should be a lot happier.
I am happy, you can't tell?
No, I can't.
Oh, this is just my face.
I don't know. You were cheesing it pretty hard a couple of the episodes. Like, I know the community one, you were just ecstatic.
That's fair. It's because I thoroughly enjoyed the topic. Mental health days have always been a little difficult for me personally, because it wasn't until just recently did I get comfortable approaching like mental health days as they should be. Because I would take mental health days, but then I would also like stress myself out because I felt unproductive, or I felt guilty because I'm not doing as much as I'm accustomed to doing on like a normal work day.
You fall into the hustle culture that
Exactly.
I have to make sure that I'm jam-packing every second of every day with something productive.
Gotta grind, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and so I'm still sort of getting used to that. But I'm at least taking the steps to do mental health right. It's just my face doesn't agree with like it all the time. I think the hobbies thing, I want to go back to that, and that is so true. How I think the fulfillment of being able to like set a goal for yourself at the beginning of your mental health day, even if it's your hobby, could be just so rewarding. Like something like if you like knit and you don't have to finish a whole project, but like if you just like start it or see it through to like a point where you are satisfied with the work that you've done, you now have something physically in your hands that you can say, I did this. And that is such a cool thing. I know that's largely why I work in so many mediums that I do, because at every step of the way, you can step back and look at it and be like, whoa, that's different from how I found it originally.
Oh, this is something special. This is something new.
Yeah. This hunk of leather is now like something that resembles like a shirt, or like well, because it's not quite there, but like, you know, after a few cuts, hopefully it's starting to take shape, or, you know, a handy dandy little belt pouch or something like that, you know?
Yeah, something neat like that.
Something neat like that. But yeah, so I think that's such good advice, to do the little attainable goals.
Yeah, the small attainable goals that don't have to do with your work, that don't have to do with your daily grind. Just something like, I enjoy blank, therefore I will do blank today.
Oh yeah.
And it needs to be something that de-stresses you. That's super important. If you de-stress by playing Call of Duty and shooting the heads off your enemy, and it actually de-stresses you, cool, go for it. But if it just gets you really hyped up, really amped up, maybe opt for like Stardew Valley. Or something that doesn't give you the adrenaline, because guess what?
Yeah.
Your body can't tell the difference. But like, you need stress. You need a little bit of stress in your life. It's very important. But your body can't tell the difference between good stress and bad stress.
Yeah.
Your body is just stressed.
Yeah.
And so mental health days are supposed to counterbalance those really stressful days during the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind, and you really need to be honest with yourself. What actually de-stresses you? Because that looks different for everybody. For some people it is the bubble bath with the wine and the true crime novel like you see in all the Pinterest boards.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, maybe leave the blood and gore in the bathtub somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes like that honest reflection, because I see a lot of people fall into the pitfall of, oh, well, I make stuff for Etsy, therefore I'm kind of having a mental health day every day because I'm doing arts and crafts. And it's like, no, you're not. Because when you're doing the thing you love as a job, guess what? It's still a job.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to make sure you do that separation. Otherwise, you will get burnt out. Being burnt out isn't a badge of honor. Contrary to popular belief, I can't speak today, it is not a badge of honor to be exhausted, overworked, and burnt out. That's not a good thing. It's not good for you. You're going to shorten your lifespan, and you're going to degrade your quality of life. Regardless of what you believe happens after you die, you want to at least enjoy the current one you're in, I would assume.
Yeah. I don't know when that became the case either, of like, you know, being burnt out is like, oh wow, you're like really getting it. Like, you feel awful, but then the people around you are like, wow.
They're praising you.
I want that. Like, you want that? That's so weird to think that we flipped it on its head now, that that's the thing to do.
Yeah. It's awful. And then, like, the way that it has also, like, warped mental health. It's like, oh, because I'm so stressed, when I do have a mental health day, it's fine if I am an absolute slob. Because guess what? That's also not good for you. And it should be about being sustainable. Yeah. A couple of tips to actually, like, make it sustainable, in addition to making sure you have that good separation, is to plan your mental health days ahead of time.
Ooh.
Before you hit rock bottom, you're taking that time, that self-care. It's like I'm going to go back to my plant example. If I see a plant is starting to wilt a little bit, I won't wait to water it. I'll go and water it. Better yet, I'll have a calendar app on my phone like I do to water it ahead of time before it gets wilted. So it never gets to that point, and you are no different. Make sure that you, like, look at your schedule, you figure out a way to work it in ahead of time, that way you don't ever wilt. Like my poor jasmine plant. Oh god, I got totally off topic.
Yeah.
But I had a plant disease problem going on with my jasmine plant, and I had been battling it for the last, like, 2 months.
Yeah.
And she's now flowering. So it's like, oh my god, you're gonna live. Oh. She is Jasmine, the jasmine plant.
Oh, easy to remember?
Yeah. My husband named her.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What would you have named your jasmine plant?
Well, I don't want to, like, unname my plant.
Well, no, it's not unnaming, but, like, you had a look where it's like, my husband named it. Like, what would you have named a jasmine plant
Something
then?
more
That sounds
creative.
like a pretty... I'm going to take his side, and I'm going to say Jasmine the jasmine plant is a pretty solid name. Just like how I think everyone out there is guilty of having that one stuffed animal, like Barry the teddy bear or something like that, you know? Okay, right? So, like, leave it alone. Jasmine the jasmine plant.
Jasmine the jasmine plant is a perfectly fine name. Across the way, just last little note about plant, we have Olga the umbrella tree.
Okay.
In the office.
Olga the umbrella tree.
Olga the umbrella tree.
Okay. And why Olga?
She's an Olga, look at her.
That's okay, yeah.
I mean, does that plant not cry to you? My name is Olga, and I like to be just a little bit underwatered because I like to pee out the bottom of my pot and over my pot rail. And I'm a little
maybe not all of that, but like bits of that I did get.
Yes.
There were some specifics in there where I think I would have had to spend more time with her in order to get that, but yeah. Alright, fine. Don't answer my question then. That's okay. Jasmine the jasmine plant.
Yeah,
Solid
Jasmine
name
is
choice.
a solid name. So, much like my plants, going back to topic,
Yes.
schedule it ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
And be honest with yourself. I know one of my worst pitfalls is, okay, I scheduled myself a mental health day for next Tuesday. Monday rolls around and I'm like, you know, it'd be really cool if I did XYZ tomorrow. And so here's Tuesday and I'm in the side yard digging out dirt, not mental healthing, and stressing myself out because I'm overexerting myself.
No.
And it's an awful thing because it's like I see that time, I'm tempted, I feel like I kind of have the mental bandwidth, so I'm going to stretch myself. And then it's like 2 weeks after what should have been my mental health day, and I'm like, I'm really stressed out. Why am I so stressed out? Oh yeah, because I haven't done any real self-care.
Right.
Which is not good for me.
No, it's not.
It's not. I'm my worst advocate. Yeah.
I can't even deny it. Like,
you're over here recording.
No, okay. No, you're right. You're right. I did the attainable goals, though, before I came over here, and I am feeling better about it. My small attainable goal was I just wanted to, clean up my face a little bit.
Well, you do look very handsome.
Thank you. It's probably not even that noticeable, but I remember waking up, I was like, dude, when was the last time that you, tamed that monstrosity you call a face?
Wait, you don't want to have a mountain man beard?
I do, but it's not Mountain Man-esque right now, and so it needs to be kept. It needs to be... It needs to look intentional right now. Because Mountain Man beard, it's like, you gotta have a certain level of facial hair to just let it go. And I don't have that yet.
I know, that's what my husband wants. He's never going to get there. He just doesn't have the facial hair growth. I keep telling him, use some mascara. You can make a really good-looking fake beard using mascara.
I did not know that. Yeah,
I did it once when I was going to a rave in San Francisco. I wanted a beard. It was pretty realistic looking. It had a decent 5 o'clock shadow.
I don't even know. Sure.
Sure. Those also were not mental health days because all raves are pure fight or flight responses.
I can imagine.
Incarnate. But they were so much fun. I'm not 20-something no more. So, goodbye youth.
That does not sound like my idea of fun.
Speaking of youth, I don't know how I did it in college. I worked 2 part-time jobs. I had a full course load in college. Mm-hmm. And I was maintaining a boyfriend and a pretty, substantial friend group. I think I just never slept. And I definitely never took mental health days.
Yeah.
And I remember in college, people would brag, oh, it's been 4 months since I took time off. And then somebody else would be like, oh, well, I went 5 months. And there was just this culture of, haha, I can go the longest without a break.
2 years.
Yeah.
2 years. I was like, what are personal days?
Yeah, no, that's atrocious. You shouldn't go that long.
My personal days were spent going on mission trips.
No.
Yeah.
Just hard no.
I did. That was life for a little bit there.
See, and that's so bad for you. I don't get... In a culture that's, slowly starting to... Maybe it's just the youth that is, slowly trying to head towards better mental care. Mm-hmm. Why are mental health days not normalized yet? Why is it still oh, I'm going to lie to my boss and pretend I have a cough when I need a day off? I really don't get it. At my husband's current work, all of his time off is labeled as PTO. He doesn't have to say why he needs the time off. Mm-hmm. It could be from anything from mental health days to family care and illness, and they're all just kind of wrapped up into one.
That's super cool. We should move towards that more.
Right? I remember at
Why class it?
Yeah, his old job is he had to give a reason. He didn't have to give specifics, but he had to give a reason. Yeah. This one, he's I'm taking this day off.
Now, I understand if you're accumulating, PTO on top of sick leave, they would want to keep track of that. if it's 2 separate things you earn every hour, but, also, keeping track of it that way should be, normalized, I think. Because
Yeah,
you
it's
shouldn't
like-
have to.
You shouldn't have to justify yourself. It's like, I earned this time off. Give me my damn money.
Mm-hmm.
And then back off.
Yeah, I think at one of my old jobs, we had 2 separate accounts. Like, you would earn sick leave as well as paid time off. So we did have to give reason for, like, why we were taking a day off. Like, is this vacation or are you sick? Especially because this was in the middle of, like, the panini. So, like, it was like, well, are you sick? But then
And
also,
then what kind of sickness is it?
So then also there was this terrible thing that we got into, which I never did, but a lot of times people would omit if they were taking like sick leave or if they were taking vacation time, because if you took sick leave during this time, you were then asked to stay out an additional week.
Yeah.
And that part wasn't paid for.
That's how it was for a lot of jobs. Like, my
Mhm.
old neighbor, she had to, if she felt sick, she had to show proof that it wasn't the Rona.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was the Rona, she wouldn't get extra pay for it, but she wasn't allowed to come into work for 2 weeks. And she's a single mom with 2 kids
Oh my god.
in an apartment by herself. And 2 weeks, no money means no rent, means if there wasn't an eviction ban, she was going to get evicted.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, that's like awfulness aside, but why is it with that one illness, people are like, ooh, stay away. But if somebody gets like a horrible flu and they come back and they spread the germs around everybody at the office, that's fine. Oh, yeah. It's so weird. There's now like this idea of only one spreadable illness is awful. They're all awful. Keep your goddamn germs to yourself. Like, seriously, if you feel ill, you shouldn't have to come to work. You should keep your illness to yourself. Because I don't want it. I guarantee nobody at the office wants it.
Mm-mm.
And then to go home and spread it to all their loved ones. And if you have kids and they're sick, you're going to be more miserable than your sick kids. Because sick kids, I love kids, but they're the worst kids. Sick ones are the worst ones. So I hope, along with it being more normalized, of mental health days being okay to take off of work, actually staying gone when you're sick long enough that you don't spread it to everybody would also be a lovely addition to our culture.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a great one.
I think one could help the other too. Like, normalizing mental health days could help realizing you need to take better care of yourself, which in turn would then affect how we approach calling out sick.
Oh yeah, because it would be a totally different system.
Mm-hmm.
That reminds me, there's a YouTube channel, but it's like a whole company called The Financial Diet that's totally unsponsored.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a 4-day work week. Period.
Really?
Yes. Every weekend's a 3-day weekend, and their productivity has shot up since doing that. And there's one European country, I want to say it's Sweden, that also has a law that's like a 4-day work week. And like the research from it is still like very new in its infancy, but it shows that you're more productive that way. Because guess what?
When you're happy. Yeah.
You're happy. There's like that built-in mental health time. Because it's like, 2 days for housework, 1 day for yourself?
Mm.
Like, they don't have to worry about burning out. Because it's kind of hard to burn out in only 4 days at work. You can stay more focused. You're also like, oh my god, if there's a deadline, I need to get it done now. So let me be actually productive instead of being like, oh, well, Monday isn't a real work day for a lot of office people.
Yeah.
Not so much if you're in retail, or even worse, if you're working with children. Mondays are terrible.
Mm.
Children do not like to be at school on Mondays. Now, I don't know if that translate over to the youth, but I know with adults, just from the little bit of work out there, it's like, that would be great if we could just go towards that. Because there'd also be less need for mental health days. There'd be less need for sick days, because if you're sick, there's less days you'd be at work, and you can just reschedule around that. Schedule your days the following week. You don't lose out in the hours. You're just pushing your work week further back until you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also more likely that you'll have your illness during those 3 days. So, That's my rant of annoyance with modern day hustle culture, coming from the person that works for a not-for-profit and is the head of a couple of different departments and also has multiple side hustles.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a hypocrite. I never claimed to be otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Just a bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, as we're wrapping up here, do you have any last minute advice for our listeners? Or anything else you wanted to touch on before we end up?
Oh, man. You know, we always do this part, and
Yes.
I always, every time, forget that it's coming, and so...
You always look shocked.
I always look shocked, yeah. That's because I think I always forget that it's coming.
We
But,
do this every time. We've been doing this for a few months
I
now.
understand. But it's always a surprise. I would say... I'm going to reiterate the point that we sort of like stumbled into at the very beginning, and that is for mental health days, find that little attainable goal.
Yes.
Could be anything, but just, you know, make it as small as you want, make it as attainable as you want, and then just do it.
Be honest with yourself would be my advice for the mental health days. Is what you're doing actually helping your mental health, or are you doing it just for the gram? Because there's a problem if it's the latter.
That's good.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this awesome podcast. Remember, new episodes come out every week. Eventually, the season will be over, but if there's anything in particular you would like to hear us talking about, please let us know on our socials. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Join the conversation. Find us on social media at It's Working Podcast or link below.
Thanks for listening, and we hope you join us next week.
Be kind to yourself and to others.
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty. Man, we just putting on a show. Oh, you know, I try to find a purpose in my life to drive me, to guide me. Oh, doctor, I feel dead inside.
Sarah and Scooter Podcast is a conversation between
You guessed it.
Sarah,
And Scooter. We are not experts on any of these topics.
just hoping to spark something like an idea, conversation, or even a revelation.
Subjects will vary depending on our friends, family, and community.
Sometimes it will be what we want to talk about.
New episodes drop every week on all of your favorite podcast formats.
So pull up a chair and
And let's talk about stuff.